At the Florida SBDC, we want to help you become a successful exporter, so we're going to walk you through the steps of doing that. The first thing your company should do is take a readiness assessment. Find out if you're really ready to go overseas. Second, you'll want to do market research. The Florida SBDC has some incredible market research resources that we'd be happy to share with you. And these are things that a lot of small business owners can't really afford, so come to us and we can help you with that. We want you to identify the top markets because exporting can cost time and money, and you want to make sure you narrow it down to the ones that have the best potential for you. Next, you want to have a foreign market entry plan. Are you going to go directly, indirectly, or with some kind of partnership in place? Step number 5 is having an export compliance plan. The U.S. government has strict regulations and guidelines about compliance that you'll want to follow. And finally, you want to have export metrics. If you don't measure it, you can't move it, so we want to make sure you succeed. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how the Florida SBDC can help you with market research. This market and research is used to confirm real foreign market demand by using data, and if the end user pricing will result in profits for your company. Market research is a foundation for market entry, so we want to help you find the best market. We want to help you use key indicators, whether it's macroeconomic indicators or if it's risk factors. We want to help you evaluate the market using those indicators to find the best prospect for you, and then we're going to prioritize those markets from best to next best. When you're identifying and selecting markets, we're going to do 2 types of market research if possible. The first is primary, and that's collected directly in that foreign country. It's pretty expensive to do, but it's really specific and helpful. Secondary market research comes from data and other information that's easily accessible. We can help you with both of those types of research. When we look at the international market analysis, we're going to look at a bunch of different indicators. The first one we generally start with are global trade flows. We want to see where a product or service is going to, and we do that with trade data. The second thing we look at is what portion of that is coming from the U.S., which indicates demand for U.S.-made products in that market. Made in the USA really means something in a lot of markets, so we want to identify those markets where you do the best. Then the macroeconomic indicators come into play with population size, GDP rates, and economic growths. Another aspect to consider is if there is a free trade agreement with the United States. Having a free trade agreement makes it easier to do business in the foreign market and usually offers some discounts when it comes to tariffs and duties. Risk factors of going overseas include economic and political stability, ease of doing business that the World Bank actually does a ranking of countries, and then we also want to look at tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers. There's many reasons why you can't do business in other countries, and those have to do with the costs associated or the risks associated. Finally, we're going to use any type of industry-related indicators that would show demand for your product or service overseas. Throughout the world, there's a harmonized system for classifying products. This makes it easy to communicate whether you're in Korea or in the United States. We can understand numbers, so every number throughout the world has a 10-digit code that's based on the harmonized system. Harmonized tariff schedule is for imports, and if you're exporting, it's called the Schedule B number. The first 6 digits are the same for every country, and then the last 4 digits vary by country and are specific to duties and taxes. The Schedule B number is a classification code for exporting goods out of the United States and is determined by the U.S. Census Bureau. This is so that they can track trade flows and compile data for us to use in market research. If you want to look up your Schedule B, it's a matter of just searching on the Schedule B search engine tool, or you can come to the Florida SBDC and we can help you classify your product. You can also call the U.S. Census Bureau and they will assist you with that as well. Here's an example of the description of a product. It is video cameras, and this is the Schedule B search engine. As you can see, it describes what it is made out of, what your product is made out of, and what it will be used for. Once we have that Schedule B number, we're able to pull trade statistics to identify demand throughout the world. Using our strategic partners, we're able to access trade statistics through Wiser World. but anybody can access these trade statistics through the U.S. Census. Searching for trade data looks complicated, and this is something that your Florida SBDC International Trade Consultant can help you with. You can define it by year, by the entire world, or by one country, and who the partner would be, whether it's the United States or somebody else. And then we want to look at trade flows of import. Who's importing your product so that we know it's in demand. Once we have the information, we can start identifying where the best prospects are. Countries like China, Russia, and Brazil generally come up in the top, but that doesn't always mean that it's a good potential for your product or service due to trade barriers. But it's a good place to start. Here we're looking at imports from USA, so it narrows it down a little bit so that we know which countries are the top importer of your product around the world. Once you have that trade data, you want to do more market research. And there's a lot of resources that you can use, both through the Florida SBDC and on your own at home, using Google or using something like Global Edge, which is published by Michigan State University, and that provides a lot of international trade information. Another great resource is export.gov, which is the U.S. government portal for export resources. Another resource would be the World Bank publishes the Ease of Doing Business Index, and it lets you know if it's pretty easy to navigate the business community in that country, or if there's going to be some severe barriers. Singapore generally ranks in the number one of doing business, the ease of doing business there, and then countries like Syria and Afghanistan are closer to the bottom. We always encourage our clients to look and see if there's a free trade agreement with the United States. Currently, there's 20 agreements. And when there's a free trade agreement in place, it means the U.S. government has made it easier for us to trade products and services between these countries. So that's always on the plus side. To recap, what we do with our clients at the Florida SBDC is we look at market research, and this is a brief overview of what we'll look at. We'll look at the trends, what's new in your industry. So we'll look at the domestic market and the international market. We want to see what's going to happen for the next 5 years, so we look at a lot of forecasts. We look at market drivers to understand who and what drives your industry. We want to look at potential around the world. We want to make sure that you can compete. And then we want to look at all the statistics, the regulations, and operating conditions. It's pretty comprehensive, and we love doing what we do. Once you have all that market data, you want to record it on a chart so that you can compare apples to apples. You want to make sure that you get everything as even as you can, and you can eliminate markets that show poor potential or there's just too much risk, whether it's the economic system in that country or tariffs. Once you have all the data on the chart and you're able to identify what the best potential is, you can rank those markets. Once you have evaluated all your market research, how you enter the market is very dependent on your industry and your company. With our strategic partners at Enterprise Florida and the U.S. Commercial Service, we can help you go into that next step and identify buyers for your product and service overseas. We have a lot of programs that we'd love to share with you, so please visit a Florida SBDC location near you.